when starting to do chains, use the longest piece of the chain that you got, the starter piece, and the video froze, I think. Nope. Nope, there it goes. So then you have to wrap it around all along the part that you want, from sprocket to sprocket. Then you hand tighten it first to see how long you actually need the chain. If it's about a half length off, then go for the part that would make it the shortest. And then once you find that part where you need a break, you choose the top plate on which 2 points you have to use the chain break on. Once you find that, it's best to double check and make sure you don't lose that placer, or else you will have to find it again. In breaking the chain, you use just regular chain break, doesn't matter what kind you use. And then you start to pop out the 2 stems in which holds the plates together. Let's see. So just turn. Just keep turning until you can't turn it anymore. By that point, you have most of the part out already. Once you get done with the first one, just go directly to the one next to it. Of course, still on the same top plate part, not the middle area. Don't go by the middle, taking off only the top plate. So, after you get this off, or at least until you can't turn anymore, you take out the chain brake, and if it's still stuck in there, like as you can see, which is fairly annoying, I normally will get needle nose and I'll tug at it and pull, and sometimes you have to wiggle at it to get it out. So it takes a while, and there we go. Once you get it out, then you just go on doing the normal thing. Double check that you have the right length. You can never check too many times. And so it does fit. Whenever you're mounting the chain from the motor to the wheel, so you can get the powered wheel, you've got to make sure that the motor can tension it. So you're going to have to loosen up the bolts mounting the motor so it can slide, and just adjust this to where it's loosening. Okay. And also, while we're waiting for me to do this, it's also important that whenever you're spacing out the sprocket that's attached to the motor, that's going to be perfectly lined up with the sprocket on the wheel. That's always a very important thing, because if you have that anywhere crooked, it will mess up and it could break. Okay then, so
to silence all those.
as I'm loosening this, taking my sweet time and taking it nice and slow to make sure that I loosen it just enough to where I can slide it. If I loosen it way too much, then later on when we're retightening it, it'll take way too long to tighten it back up at the right tension. And just need to get both of them loosened just a bit, and just enough to where I can move it with just a bit of force. Okay. Sorry about my head getting in the way. Okay then. So once you do that, you'll notice that you can have the chain very loose, and you start to put in the master link, which is the link separate with the plate and also a clip. When I'm doing this, it's always best to remember in mind whichever way will be best to readjust it later. So I like to usually have the clip pointing outside the direction toward the outer part of the chassis, not inside, so that way once later if I do need to ever take it off or change it, it becomes much easier. So then, after you put the link through, you have to put the plate on top of that, make sure it's as flat as possible. Then you get the clip, put it in between the little slits on the master link, and you use the needle nose to just to clip it shut. You gotta make sure that clip is completely flat. Don't have one part sticking up and one part down, because after a couple running it may brush up against something and it'll come off and you'll lose your chain altogether. And it's kind of hard to see, and sadly it's just all a blur. Well, after you get the master link on it, the convenient part about going from motor to wheel is that you can tension it how you like it. We then have it's always best to have a friend nearby when doing this part, because you're going to have someone pull or push in the direction for the motor until it's as tensioned as you want it. I usually like to get it as tight as possible, because it will loosen later. And after you have someone holding it down, you tighten back the bolts. This is why you don't loosen it so much, because you don't want to keep your friend pushing or pulling on it for too long, because you will lose tension after a while then. So then make sure you tighten each bolt very securely, so that way it doesn't slide on you. It's just taking me a while to find the place. Whenever checking for chain tension, it's always best to have about just a bit of movement. Not so stiff to where it doesn't move at all, but not so loose to where it can almost touch the other chain. You want to keep it to where it's just a little wiggle room with quite a bit of resistance, as you can see how much it's moving. See? It doesn't move too much, but it moves still enough to where you can see that it's moving at least. And after that you have a completed chain. And that's how you chain from motor to wheel.